Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new series on my channel that I like to call Who Did It Better? So basically, this is going to be a comparative analysis where we take two completely different shows, find a common theme between them, and then compare the different elements of that theme while providing opinionative scores to those elements based on our own analysis. So, to help you understand a little bit better, this episode compares the shows Death Parade and Yuri on Ice. Two completely different shows with different genres, different studios and producers, however they share one common theme, and that's the sport of figure skating. So the elements that we have chosen to compare are the implementation of the theme to convey a particular message, so basically the underlying message. Character development, so when a character is figure skating, how does this progress the character's story and in what way? Animation quality, so how the figure skating scenes are presented to us in terms of visual aesthetic. And finally, sound and music, which is basically the background music and use of sound effects to make the scene more realistic and emotional. So, of course, this isn't a one-man job, so I made a new friend in the anime community to help me out with this analysis, and his channel is OkamiViking. So go check out Okami's channel because he'll be covering the deep analytical stuff that goes into the underlying message and character development, and I'll be covering the animation quality and use of sound and music. And by the end, we'll see which show won more categories and determine a winner. So, without further ado, let's get started with our first episode of Who Did It Better? Death Parade vs. Yuri on Ice, the figure skating edition. So I'm going to start things off with the first category, and how we all make our initial judgments on any show because it's the first thing we see, that being the animation quality. Before beginning any show, the very first opinion we will have on it is its art style and animation quality. But since we are comparing the theme of figure skating, I'm going to focus on the quality and style of the figure skating scenes. However, before we can start judging the shows themselves, we first need to understand the people behind the art. Let's begin with Studio Mappa's Yuri on Ice. According to a study of the show done by Sakura Blog, Yuri on Ice used more key animators than any other anime series during the fall 2016 season. They averaged about 48 key animators per episode, but here's the catch, each character in the show was handled by a different key animator. That's why each performance was so fundamentally different from the rest, even though they are doing the same movements. So for example, just take a look at when Yuri was attempting to copy Victor's moves. You can spot the more careful movements in Yuri's footwork, which is unique to Yuri's character. However, their use of different key animators for each character may have been their downfall as well, because you can tell that there is a significant drop in animation quality in the later episodes. The movements become a bit more choppy and less fluent, and the animations seemed a bit more generic. Perhaps budget cuts got the best of them, but by that point, it was something that we had seen many times over already, and the animation quality wasn't the most important feature to those episodes. Alright, now moving on to Studio Madhouse's mystery thriller Death Parade. Now there was only one figure skating scene in this show, and let me tell you that it does not disappoint. If you want to see clear movements, fluent animations, and gorgeous cinematography, then watch this scene. But it wouldn't be fair to say that this is what Yuri on Ice should have looked like due to their sheer number of figure skating scenes that they had to animate. However, this is a comparative analysis and we take into consideration quality over quantity. From the vibrant changes in color, to the camera movements that sometimes lag behind Chiyuki's movement, to transitional shots from head to skates, you can tell there was a lot of effort and budget put into this scene. A lot of the elements that were in Yuri on Ice's animation was also in this scene as well. Both scenes included the tracks that the skates are making in the ice, and they both even go as far as to include the character's reflection in the ice. However, I feel that where Death Parade edges out Yuri on Ice is with its fluidity and visual aesthetic. Each movements and each transition from pose to pose is animated with the utmost care to ensure that we don't miss a single step. So in my personal opinion, based on this analysis of the two shows, it was a really close battle, but I would have to give Yuri on Ice an 8.5 and a Death Parade 9.5 for animation quality. Just a friendly reminder though that this scoring is entirely based on personal opinion, and if you happen to feel that what I rated the two shows is not reflective of how they actually are, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. But please don't go hating on me because I'm giving my personal view on something based on my own analysis. Now I'm going to pass it off to my good friend Okami, who will take over for the character development and underlying message sections, and I'll be back in the end to talk about the sound and music components. So go ahead, Okami.
Yuri is not a genius, nor is he a natural at skating, but his skills are greatly improved by training quite a bit, which granted him excellent stamina. His greatest skating assets are his odd sense of rhythm and his unique steps in the typical ice skating routine. However, Yuri gives into pressure very easily. He's an anxiety-riddled mess, and he has trouble with said anxiety many times throughout the show. Yurio, on the other hand, is a prodigy, but unlike the kind-hearted Yuri, typically Yurio is short-tempered and kind of an asshole and quite arrogant in his abilities. Lastly, the man, the legend, Viktor Koryaev, is a legend for Russia who seeks to coach Yuri because of the inspiration he gave him. Now, the first Euros performance is because both Yuri and Yurio want Victor to go back to their respective homelands, and Victor decides how to solve this, with both of them having to do a Euros performance about what they personally love. They each find the thing they love and can focus on the performance then. This scene for Yuri is huge. Yuri was, and still is, a very timid man who couldn't see his strengths and had gone through a major depressive episode before this. With the performance, though, he gained a bit of confidence and learned what he feels love is. Yuri wasn't aware of the potential he had because of previous failures he had in the Grand Prix. But with this performance, he feels as though he has a chance to get better, brought out by his coach. His Euros was pork cutlet bowls. The reason for this is because love is really what you make of it. What you really desire in life. And as he's been dieting, he really wanted some good food with his coach. Yuri learns that his strength isn't in more masculine movements, but in more feminine movements, much like Yurio. Speaking of Yurio, it's quite interesting the contrast that happens between them. Yurio, on the other hand, learns his weaknesses. Yurio has been noted to not take training seriously in the past, and did very well despite his light training that he did. Yuri is still a good skater, though, which Yurio had underestimated. You see this in the series quite a bit before this point, and after this point. Yurio underestimates the opposition quite a bit, and kind of fucks up because of it. You see him several times cursing himself while he skates, and when Yuri performs, the motherfucker just straight up leaves. After this scene, Yurio begins to take his training more seriously after he's just straight up humbled by Yuri. But he keeps his arrogance for a while, though. There's another contrast I'd like to bring to their thoughts of Victor after this. Although they both idolized him, Yurio's opinion took a turn for the worst, while Yuri's was more positive. Both, however, began to express a dream to surpass him one day. This scene is one of my favorites because it's an example of what Yuri on Ice does best, which is character interactions and character development. The thing that helps this portrayal is that the message, I would say, is you're stronger than you think you are. But it is important to know your flaws and your strengths. The only way Yuri could beat Yurio was recognizing his strengths, and a lot of the reason why Yurio lost was because of his arrogance. And now for Death Parade. I really find it admirable that a lot of its focus isn't on ice skating, and it managed to have an absolutely beautiful ice skating scene. However, looks aren't what I'm judging for. That's AnimeSam's job. My job is to focus on character development. And I hate to say, but there isn't really character development in this ice skating scene. However, I should probably go back a bit, and just like I did on Yuri on Ice, explain what Death Parade is. Well, it's actually kinda hard at first, but think about it like this. Whenever two people on Earth die at the same time, they're sent to one of the mysterious bars run by bartenders serving as kind of like arbiters to the next life. There, they have to go for a death games thing with their lives. Their fate will be afterwards, if the people judging their souls will be judging if they're reincarnated or just banished. This series follows a man called Decium, the lone bartender of the Quidicium bar, whose role in judging those souls changes when he meets this black-haired woman. This black-haired woman will be the focus of the scene I'm about to talk about, by the way. Oh, and another, by the way, huge spoilers for this series, as it kind of reveals a lot of the plot about this woman and why she's there. Anyway, the black-haired woman, known as Chiyuki, is ice skating while marionettes play in the background. We learn her past, and because she already knew her past, she couldn't be drafted in said death games. The storytelling is beautiful, and we learn that the reason why she's there is because she committed suicide after a serious injury. Unfortunately, there isn't really much character development, though. This seems more of a reveal of someone's past rather than growing as a character. And it feels bad to put him there, but as that is my job, I have to give Yuri on Ice the edge. The character development for that scene was much better than Death Parade's. On a number scale, I'd rate Yuri on Ice as an 8.5 in character, and Death Parade on a 7 in character. Now, if you haven't watched Death Parade, I can tell you how it is. It's like a series of character studies. Sometimes people come through said bar that we were talking about earlier as harmless as they appear, unassuming people who really are unassuming people and are good. Some are bad assholes through and through, but most people, just like real life, are mixed with good and bad. There's some darkness hidden with us all, be it jealousy, hatred, or something far more disturbing, like uncontrollable rage. As the characters' memories tend to slowly come back as they play the games, We're shown a brief summary of their lives, and we see how their personalities and beliefs change through life as the perils of life change their ways and force them into something less innocent and something more like how adults react. Now, Chiyuki, previously being human, makes the soul judging thing they do difficult. And it's clear from the get-go that the system is flawed. Despite being granted a portion of their guest memories as part of the game, the arbiters are nonetheless unable to digest the data that they put in anything but an objective way. Now, this is difficult because as humans, we're emotional people. We're bound to have flaws. The game only brings out the darkest and most emotional parts of people, and this can, and does, trust me, it really does, lead to incorrect judgments. Whether the flaws inherent in us all are more important than can we truly judge somebody with a completely objective set of rules is personal opinion. However, storytelling is a key thing here, and in both series, I don't think the Death Parade can compare to Yuri on Ice's storytelling. In the end, I give Death Parade an 8 out of 10 for underlying message, while Yuri on Ice gets a 9 out of 10.
Alright, and for our final category today, the sound. In both shows, the background music plays a key role in invoking an emotional response from the viewer, but it's how the show uses this music in combination with the sound effects of the skating scene that will determine this category's winner. Now, judging Yuri on Ice is going to be a little bit difficult considering that every figure skating scene is a different song. I should state first that Yuri on Ice changed the sound effects of each skating scene to match the venue that they were in according to building capacity and crowd size. Each skating sound was recorded separately, and no stock sounds or footage of professional skaters was used. Each sound was also performed by a series choreographer. Although sometimes unnoticeable, the sound effects are there for the skates carving through the ice, and it does make sense that they'd be very minute if the venue was large. Now, in terms of music, for consistency reasons, I'm going to choose a single song that followed us throughout the series, and that was In Regards to Love, Eros. This song, composed specifically for the show by Taku Matsushiba, features mainly instruments of Spanish origin and maintains an upbeat feel with a fast tempo. The song is almost perfect for identifying with Yuri's growth throughout the show, and also perfectly contrasts with his free skate song. It's almost as if it grows with us because we begin to match movements to particular points in the song, and by the final episode we know what Yuri is going to do at that point in the song. Now, moving on to Death Parade, the sound effects were done just as masterfully as Yuri on Ice, if not better. From the very beginning, the piano begins to play with an echo that matches the size of the room, and then Chiyuki begins to skate, and the sounds that the skates make are crisp and clear from the gliding across the ice to the jumps that are made. However, as the flashbacks start happening, the background music takes over and the sound effects are gone, almost as if representing that Chiyuki is completely lost in thought, though doing her performance out of pure muscle memory while remembering the events of her past. And finally, when she realizes what she's doing and what she has become, they bring back the sound effects of the skates, cut the music, and end the performance. So in this particular scene, the sound effects and music served an additional purpose that helped to compose a better story. They're not only props, but also transitional points between Chiyuki's cognizance of her surroundings. Now, the music used is a personal favorite of mine that goes by the name of Moonlit Night by composer Yuki Hayashi. This piece was made specifically for Death Parade and succeeds perfectly at getting an emotional response from the viewer. It is synced well with the flashbacks and the movements of the performance and helps to get the feel of the scene across. Now, since both figure skating scenes took different approaches for their sound effects, it wouldn't be fair to give either a score above the other, since they both succeed in what they were trying to accomplish. Death Parade being crisp and clear while signifying Chiyuki's awareness, while Yuri on Ice is being more for maintaining that real-world outlook on competitive figure skating. In terms of music, depending on the episode for Yuri on Ice, both give out a significant emotional response that can only be described as the feels. So I have to give them both a tie with a score of 9 each. Alright, now that the scores are in, let's take a look at the winner. With a score of 35 out of 40, Yuri on Ice narrowly beats out Death Parade, which got a final score of 33.5 out of 40. Yuri on Ice took the character development and storytelling categories, while Death Parade dominated the animation one, but tying in the sound and music category allowed Yuri on Ice to maintain its lead. So, this was our first episode in our brand new collaboration series between OkamiViking and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have an idea for what two shows we should do a comparison for next, leave a comment below. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you want to see more of this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. Also, if you're new to the channel and made it this far, thanks for stopping by, and I hope that you stick around for more of my content. So until next time, ciao!